Brought to you by Penguin. Homecomings, written by Marcia Willett, read by Emma Powell. Part 1. Chapter 1. Hugo Houghton comes hurrying along the precipitous cobbled street that hurtles down to the harbour. His tweed coat flaps around his long legs, and he clutches a bag of shopping in his arms as carefully and firmly as if it were a baby. He pauses to look at the few boats that remain of a once prosperous fishing fleet, which now provide day trips out to sea for the tourists, and then turns along beside the harbour wall towards the tall, old slate and granite house at the end of a row of fishermen's cottages. Gathering his shopping into one arm, he lets himself in through the massive oak door to a long flagged passage with its series of doorways on either side, which leads through the ground floor into the kitchen at the back of the house. He plunges into the warmth and peace of the big room, dumps his bag on the central table, and smiles at the old man, angular, wide-shouldered, white-haired, who is sitting in a wooden rocking chair by the Arga. "All well, Uncle Ned?" he asks. Two dogs scramble up from their shared basket, hurrying to meet Hugo, wagging their tails in that welcoming yet hesitant way that the retriever has, longing to show love, but anxious lest it should be rejected. Hugo bends to caress them, sympathizing with how they feel. This has been a problem for him for most of his adult life. "Good boys," he tells them. "Good fellows." Hugo begins to unpack his shopping, shrugging off his coat, passing Ned the newspaper, telling him about the friends he has seen in the village shop. He pauses to look out into the small paved area where the early May sunshine is slanting in, lighting slate walls, sliding over wooden tubs of tulips and bluebells. This sunny space is sheltered from the northwesterly wind, and today he might be able to persuade Ned outside for his morning coffee. It's not that his uncle is difficult, rather that he likes to make his presence felt, to show that, despite his vulnerability and physical weakness, he is still a force to be reckoned with. After a long and very successful career in the Navy, and though he has been retired now for more than 20 years, Ned can still be formidable when he chooses. To signal his intentions, Hugo opens the door into the little court. At once the dogs make a bid for freedom, jostling to be the first out, and then dashing up the steep flight of stone steps which leads to the small garden layered into the cliff behind the house. Hugo stands outside for a moment, lifting his face to the warm sunshine, and then goes back inside to find a cloth to wipe the dampness of last night's rain from the wrought iron table and chairs. Ned shakes his newspaper as if it is a call to battle as Hugo comes back inside, pushes the kettle onto the hot plate, and smiles at the older man. "Coffee outside?" he suggests tentatively. "It's warm out there." Ned frowns, considering, then unexpectedly folds the Times and stands up. Tall and lean, he picks up his stick and makes his way carefully and very slightly unsteadily across the flagged floor towards the doorway. Hugo watches, ready to step forward, but pretending that he is unconcerned. Ned hates to be fussed over, but since his recent hip replacement operation, he has been a little less confident, and Hugo has a horror that his uncle might fall. Ned lowers himself onto one of the chairs, and Hugo takes a breath of relief and begins to brew the coffee. He's so happy here, looking after Ned and the various people who come to stay, friends or relations needing a little bit of love and care, of rest and renewal, before returning to the cold world outside these sheltering granite walls. In his mid-50s, he doesn't regret taking the early retirement package from his job as a producer at the BBC, or leaving London. The BBC was getting busier, open plan, desks with no names. It was good to retreat from schedules and routines and to come here to the place where he spent so many happy holidays. It's as if he is able to repay some of the kindness his Aunt Margaret...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?